what about Spanish memes?
Oh my gosh, so we're going to talk about Spanish memes. This is Stephanie, by the way, and you're listening to Color Me In podcast with my second guest.
Wait, what? Oh, I thought we were doing... Yeah.
What? Are we talking about... Oh, do you want to do that?
Yeah, well, because like...
If this is mine, I'm still leaving. Listen.
Okay. Yeah, well, it's the second of mine.
Oh,
yeah,
that's right. Okay, wait, what's
time.
the second part of it?
Yes.
Because I never understood that.
It's just a conversation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. You can keep that in.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
I don't actually look at a lot of
This is
Spanish
not Color
memes.
Me In podcast.
No, that's fine. We're going to be doing that later anyways.
Spanish memes? Okay, what do you know of Spanish memes?
I mean, they like come across every once in a while, but like I don't really follow any.
You're
like,
powerful.
pages.
I don't know if there's... It's not even that there's like a culture barrier because I understand them and I can read them.
Right.
They're just funnier.
How?
I don't know. They just are. Like, I'll look at it. Like, if you give me a meme in Spanish, I'll like laugh so hard I'll pee myself. But if it's in English, I'm like, yeah, that's good. All right. I'm gonna say that on my phone. I don't know. I think sometimes they're so over the top though, because I feel like in English they try, but in Spanish they're not trying, so that makes it funny.
I think maybe it might come from like the niche itself, like the fact that. I mean, most of the memes that we see are probably in English, and then just occasionally there's one in Spanish. And so it's like, ooh, that is so right, but also in Spanish.
Yes.
That because of it being, oh, I have a niche there, it like resonates more.
That's so funny. Maybe you're right. I don't know.
Right.
Santiago is all-knowing.
No, I'm not. But like it's a weird thing because sometimes I'll have... Like, I say a lot of puns.
This is true, you do.
I'll think of puns that are bilingual. And, like...
those
it's
are
like,
powerful.
I can't say that...
To everyone.
Right
on.
Like,
send me those memes when you get them. I will...
Well, no, it's just, like, puns that I think of. And so...
Text them to me and I'll be like,
right.
yes.
Well, the other day, I was, like...
Share your thoughts, Santiago.
I was talking to Sable, and she had said something... And like my brain, because this is how my stupid brain works, I'm always just doing word association with everything so that I can make a pun. And so I like, mar, like the ocean, like,
okay.
So like mar in Spanish. And so I was like, wait, that only works in Spanish. It's like, I just said to her, like, I was going to make a pun, but it only works in Spanish. So continue. Because I'll just interrupt people to say puns. Because I'm a broken person.
Edgy.
But speaking on this is kind of something I wanted to talk to you about, is that...
More Spanish memes?
Well, kind of more
2 hours of
the
Spanish
Hispanic
memes.
thing is that I don't lean into... my Hispanic culture. I don't know if it's just like it's not crucial to like my character, I guess.
Sure.
But like I like that you do, and
do I?
Well, I mean like, we do so with each other, I guess.
Right.
But like
well, it's like when brown people bring out their brown in each other.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Right on.
But it's like
white
that's
person's
not
like, what?
I don't know why I don't lean into that.
Yeah, that's very interesting because that's literally what I was thinking about, like on the drive up here. I was like, because I was like, oh yeah, I get to be with Santiago. We can make brown jokes. It'll be great. Like you can't make brown jokes with white people. Well, you can, but you know, like it doesn't have the same like flair to it. I don't have an answer to that other than like, I think with the work that we do, and especially like the school we go to, it's like very like white dudes, and white dudes don't know anything about Latino culture, you know, because they're white. And so like there's not room for it, and it only becomes a topic when you are like the
with
quote
other
unquote
people,
the poster child of diversity. You know, like in that one class you are the only brown kid or whatever. Yeah, and that's like the only time it becomes apparent or like important. But it's like for brownie points or like statistics or whatever. But I think with
brownie
like
points.
Oh, my shots fired. That's bad. But yeah, I don't know.
Right.
I think for me, I started embracing it a lot more as I got older, just because I started understanding why it was that we don't bring it up much, or like why I felt ashamed, or like why I wanted to bleach my skin when I was like 8, because like you know, you don't understand at that time, but like as you get older, you're like, that's why I wanted to be white. But I think it's just like a form of resistance at that point, which it sucks that it is, and it shouldn't, but it is. So,
yeah, well, and I'm sure
I just want to be brown without it being a political statement.
Right, exactly. And that's something that like, I'm sure your parents do this too, but it's like my parents are always like, oh, like, you're Hispanic, you gotta like, you know, you always have to like be speaking Spanish.
Yeah, I wasn't allowed to code switch, which for those of you that don't know what code switching is, it's like when you speak one language and then speak the other, or like you mix them up, or you like with specific people you just like speak or act differently because of cultural reasons or whatever.
Yeah.
We weren't allowed to do that with my dad. It was either like, you will speak to me in English or Spanish. And he preferred Spanish, of course. But yeah, my parents are there's a joke in my family that's like, I'm the whitewashed one, because I go to I'm educated, and like I go to higher ed, and I listen to like weird art music, and like, you know, but
yeah. No, yeah, that's some white people ass shit. But like,
Santiago, you're supposed to say no,
it is, because I know
Damn it.
I'm in grad school for music composition,
which is like,
so
that is really white. Which I mean, like, white people are gonna be like, they're the anti-white people. It's like, no, it's a lot of it has to do with wealth, and like white people are usually more wealthy because of X and Y reasons. Which,
right? Yeah,
that can be like a different podcast.
Right. You know? Well, and that is kind of a thing, is that like the face of
I go to grad school for music composition.
Right. Yeah.
That's so white.
But again, like the face of like music composition,
it's like John Williams and like, you know, like
Beethoven and Bach and
white
all
dudes.
Like, it's all white dudes, and so face of like hyper artistic blah 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 is always white dudes, even if, you know, that it usually is pioneered by non-white people.
Right. Well, it's like with punk, I love punk, and most of my friends who like punk are white dudes, and it's like, it hurts, because like the punk attitude, and even I would argue the music too, was like out of like poor class people, and like even women being what's the word, you know, like restricted in like what they can and can't do. And I think of punk specifically in like Central America, because I love punk so much, but it was like all in English, and I was like, I want some Spanish punk, you know? But it was so like, it felt very white of me to like look up for Spanish punk music. Yeah. When in reality, it's like there's communities of like desperation where like the reasons punk exists.
Exactly.
You know? But it's so weird.
Yeah. But like, and I do notice the things of like, I shaved today, this morning.
Is shaving a white people thing?
No, it's, but.
Well, it's a white people construct.
Well, no, it's that I don't, for whatever reason, I don't like looking more Hispanic than I am, or like looking more Mexican, because I'm not Mexican.
Though we're not Mexican, neither of us are. Yeah.
But like. So whenever I have a mustache, like, I look more Mexican, even though I'm not Mexican.
Pedro.
Yeah.
That was a bad joke.
And so I've just had this thing of like, even though it's sort of unconscious, I go, I'm trying not to look Hispanic.
So, same. I used to have hair down to my waist, and it was like just pure jet black, and it was parted down the middle. And I would wear hoop earrings, and red lipstick, and I'm like, everyone's like Selena, because that's the only like brown girl anyone knows. And I was like, damn it. And I would, I completely relate to that. I would find ways to not look brown, because it was like embarrassing. It's embarrassing because like you want to look more white because white means hot. Unless like you tan,
or at least just fitting in.
Yeah. I wish I like had more to say, but like 130%. Yeah.
And so like, but that's the thing is, we don't lean into it because we also don't want it to be a novelty.
Yeah, absolutely. And like, I was talking to my friend Jamie, he is Mexican, and I was like, Jamie, do you ever just feel like you're too white for your like brown friends, but like too brown for your white friends? He's like, all the time. Yeah. And I'm like, right on.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, I don't know. It's just weird.
Right. And so, like, being Hispanic is not a part of my art. Mm-hmm. It doesn't necessarily, like, I'm not going to put maracas in all of my music because it's not necessary.
You know what you should do? You should get a sample of Juan Gabriel or like Vicente Fernandez and just like loop it. You should do that. Creds.
And just like hold out that note forever until the song starts.
Yes. Oh my God. That'd be like a good shit post. But like every white person would be like, this is brilliant. He's innovative, brown people. And you're like, actually, it's just shit posting.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is like, that's also what white people expect brown music to sound like. Yeah. And so there's no winning in the thing. So I don't lean into Hispanic in my art. That's not a part necessarily of my art.
I would say I don't either. When I'm like writing like lyrics and stuff, it just my experiences can be so like specific to being brown, like being poor and like growing up without people like parents. Well, I mean that's not like brown specific, but it's like immigrant specific. That I do that does come out because it's like obviously right there. But like I'm not like I'm gonna sound like Juan Gabriel on this song.
Exactly.
Or like I'm gonna wear hoop earrings for the rest of my life and look like what's her name?
Yeah,
Selena. But you know,
right?
It's I don't know. Like part of me, like for a while, I was wearing hoop earrings like all the time because I was like, I'm gonna embrace my brownness, and then like that felt so quote unquote easy, and especially like because there was like a period where like every person who was like more feminine would do it, so it was just kind of like so literally every brown person looks the same, so it kind of just felt like dry and boring.
Yeah.
And so it kind of just like faded, and I was like, yeah. It was like the pendulum, like we talked about.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Both extremes, and it's like, in reality, there's the gray area is what Latinidad is, or like what any culture is.
Yeah.
But
right, and
I think being brown for both you and I just means that we are. Are you first to go to college in your class?
No, I mean,
okay.
Both of my brothers, there's three of us,
they're brothers.
Have gone to college. And so that's not, but like both my parents went to college. So like we're not, we're not that
I gotcha. Like the
first generation thing.
Yeah, I am. Okay. So I mean like for both of us, it looks like navigating a different culture, going home and finding a different culture. And I think that's what brown is. It's not just only speaking Spanish and eating tamales while listening to Juan Gabriel. Like, yeah, I do that on Sundays. Yeah. But, like, most other days, I'm, doing this and that. So
exactly.
That's what it looks like. And I don't – that's such a hard thing for white people to grasp. And I think a lot of it comes from just, like, not knowing or, like, not doing research. Or, like, I call this, like, the BuzzFeed caricature where it's, like, they find, like, the one side of the pendulum and then just kind of, like what's the word?
Right. Well, they just zoom in on it.
They blow it up. Yeah. They blow it up and like then that becomes everyone's caricature of like, oh, brown people are loud and like to drink Coronas, which are terrible beer, and like listen to Selena. And I was like, yeah, I mean like Selena's great and all, but like also like there's so much more and there's just like I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too is that like I also don't want to sound like, oh, white people bad.
Well, yeah,
it's that like
it's like when it's not like a bad intention. It's just like when you try to do something good without thinking about it. Most of the time, it's like you're doing more harm than good.
Yeah. Well, because the thing about assimilating into a new culture is that we're always going to notice the differences.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And so, being a Native American, not a Native American, but someone who was born in America.
Yeah, right.
Doesn't have to point that out in all of their life because it's just a thing. Like it's just their life.
It's just like a norm.
But for us, having sort of two sides of that coin. We go to school and we have to assimilate, and then we go back home and like the stereotype, loud music, dancing, blah blah blah.
Which I mean that is our parties.
Yes. Like I'm not denying that.
You should come over. Oh my gosh. My dad would be like, he's brown. I love it. He's the only brown friend you brought. I'm like, Dad.
But like we point out the difference because it's so distinct in our lives. And growing up here, we do sort of are playing this game of like especially growing up illegal for me.
Which is like different. That's the thing we have different is that I was actually born here and you weren't. So you're not a real American.
Right. Well,
fake fan.
I came here when I turned 6. So
yeah, you basically grew up here. Yeah, my older brother, same situation, pretty much.
And so, like, I'm on DACA now, so that I can talk openly about it. But like, growing up illegal means I don't.
You also married a white person.
Don't point it out. Because if anyone. Like, if the spotlight comes in my direction, then more digging happens.
Yeah, it's scary.
And so just like assimilate as much as you can. You're essentially a white kid with a very Hispanic name, but
do we have a Ramones in here? Yeah, that's me.
And so it's weird because I had to like fly under the radar.
Yeah.
But that might be another reason as to why I've sort of toned it down.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so I don't like speaking Spanish in front of other people whenever like my parents call or something because it's
awkward.
always like, oh wow, you speak Spanish.
You're so excited.
Like, oh, that's so,
my gosh.
And like, every time.
You're like, God damn it.
Yeah. And it's like, can people just be bilingual? Like, is that not?
Yeah. And
so we're always
like little jalapeno emoji.
Like we're always pointing out the difference. But the thing is that like white culture doesn't have that different of tropes. It just becomes a different sort of metric of how different cultures are.
Sure.
And so a cultural thing of like the same thing as growing up poor as a brown person, necessarily not brown, but just growing up poor is like trailer park
trash
stereotype
trailer park
is like the same thing of I mean, I didn't have music lessons growing up, and so I went into college like untrained.
Oh, really?
In music. I did music in high school and stuff.
Okay, cool.
But I never took private lessons until college. But that's a thing that trailer park person would also deal with. Like, oh, we don't have money for music lessons, and so you just
in an ideal world, that like white trailer trash person, quote unquote, and you would like bond over it,
exactly,
and like that's where you would tear down the boundaries and like like in an ideal world, but there's that layer, especially in the South, of like, oh, I don't care if you were poor, you're brown, you came here and like whatever, and it's just like, no,
I think
you missed the point.
Well, that's the thing though, is that the more that those similarities are pointed out, the less that the skin color thing becomes a thing.
Yeah.
And so I remember having a friend in like elementary school, and they lived essentially in like a mobile home.
Right.
And like I remember going over to his house and being like a small house, and they were like, I'm listing trailer trash things, but like they would watch wrestling and stuff. And so it's like that was a cultural barrier that I was like, I don't know what that is, but wrestling. I related in the fact that like the struggle.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And so
absolutely.
that wasn't a thing. Like them being white wasn't as much a thing as much as it was I related to the struggle.
So yeah, I think what you're talking about is this is where it gets tricky, and I think a lot of people miss the bullseye is race isn't a thing. It's a thing that we mostly just how do I say this? It was a thing that we use as visual cues to other eyes.
Yeah.
But it's not a thing that we can say, oh, like it's not a tangible thing.
Mm-hmm.
We've got cultures and we've got ethnicities, which are more of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
But in those in like that combination, like, that would be like race. But because of that thing, that visual cue, that is the reason why we have like economic barriers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Which I think is more like economics status is more of like it's everything basically.
Yeah.
So it like tear down like the skin color and everything else. You still got the economic thing.
Mm. Yeah.
I'm trying to like reach for it, but I'm like I don't know how to say it. But it's like because you are brown, or the obvious analogy is like slaves, because they saw a darker skin color, you're black. Maybe you probably weren't black, but you're seen as black. So therefore, you are a slave, and then the system was built to make it more difficult for them. Same thing with brown people, especially like now. If you look brown, you don't want to look brown in this presidency because you stole everyone's job, you know, or whatever. But
right. Well, also the fact that I did come here as an immigrant.
Yeah.
We did overstay our visa.
Yeah.
Like that's a thing that we did.
You're just classier. Your guy here, arrival was classier.
Well, no, but that's the statistic that's higher.
Oh, really?
Yeah. No.
Really?
People don't like
this is news to
the
me.
wetback thing is I used air quotes because that's a very derogatory term.
Oh yeah.
But like the wetback thing is a trope because it's very sort of symbolically and visually clear that like, oh, they are crossing the border.
Is it a higher
illegally.
statistic because of, do you think like the safety of saying, oh, I overstayed? Well, I guess not, because it's the same thing.
No, it is. It's
because like you're not going to say, yeah, I crossed the borders in like 3 months and like blah, blah, blah.
No,
you just say,
plane. Like,
yeah. I don't know. Yeah, interesting. But
So like
I love that. You're just like on a little plane, like, oh yeah.
Well, right. You can come on vacation and
Did you know that's technically human trafficking? So, fun story. Yeah. We're applying for mom's residency. One of the questions they ask is, did you bring anyone illegally in? Parents bring their kids. Of course, that's technically human trafficking according to the Human Safety, U.S. Homeland Security, whatever.
Even if they're your kids.
Yeah. And so it's not like human trafficking, like sex trafficking.
Right.
It's a form of human trafficking in that they just make you pay a fine. Yeah. Weird. That's literally it.
Right.
It's like $1,000 fine.
Yeah. I mean, I had a passport. Like, so
but like, I don't know if that would change it, but yeah, because our lawyer was explaining to it, and I looked at her and I was like, "Are you serious?" Like, I wasn't angry at her because not her fault, she's great, but it was just like, you know why they you know why the application is 20 pages long now.
They stack a little bit more.
Well, like one of the questions too is like, are you a spy? If you're a spy, who's going to answer yes?
Yeah, exactly.
And then like the other one was like, do you own like a sex trafficking place, or are you part of a gang? Who's going to say yes to that? Yeah. I mean, like, we're not, but like
rather than put it on this form, couldn't you just investigate into it?
Yeah, well, like time and money,
Yeah.
But then like, why create an application? It's ridiculous.
You can't do that. That's illegal.
Oh. Wink, wink.
It's like, all right. I guess I'll put no.
Yeah, even though I, may or may not do it. It doesn't make sense. Like, no one's going to confess.
MS-13 dude covered in tattoos is like, no, I'm not in a gang.
I was just talking about MS-13 with a client, a customer today. That was so funny. That's so weird. But yeah, MS-13's got their grounds in El Salvador, which is where my family's from, which is interesting. So, but yeah, sorry I cut you off.
No, you're fine. But like I lost my train of thought. But like
we were talking about
immigration thing. At least I'll get on the immigration thing.
We were talking about like the airplane and then like the
it's you can get a vacation visa and just come in for
absolutely
3 months is the thing.
You can get, I think it's 3 and 6.
Mm-hmm.
You can get like the other,
right?
Yeah,
and
that's
so,
like very not uncommon,
right?
Yeah,
and so you do that. You don't renew the visa because there's no way to actually
one tracks
come
it really.
into the country and stay unless you're Albert Einstein or if you like have 3 doctorates in things that don't exist in the United States and they're like, hey, we need some of that.
Yeah.
And so I think we do more to reduce the divide by literally just explaining it than like fighting people about it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like I have yet to meet a brown person who was like physically. I almost punched a guy though. I was walking out of school and it was like Juan and I. Who's brown. And I have a patch that says "No one is illegal," but in Spanish, and like it's big and proud, and I'm very proud of it.
Yeah.
Because my parents are immigrants, and like they're the hardest working people, and I'm just not just saying that because they're my parents. And like he saw it and he yelled something. I was like half in talking about something, but he said something, and Juan heard it, and it was something not cool. And like Juan was about to fight him, and I was like, Juan, no, don't do it. But like that's the only time really anyone will fight someone about it, because like. There's no changing someone's mind at the end of the day if they aren't willing to listen.
Yeah.
And, like, there's statistics out there, too, that, like, no, we aren't stealing jobs. We're doing jobs that you don't want to do.
Yeah.
Our economy is flourishing because of immigrants, and it always has.
Right.
But, yeah, it's just, like, it's a very small percentage of immigrants are like the gang fighting people that people think they are, but like it's a very small percentage, and also like most of what they do is like underground anyway. So
right, but like I don't want to use that as an excuse to downplay it because it's real shit and it's real fucked up.
Yeah, it's very
But like we should also acknowledge that like
the majority of immigrants here are just
just normal ass people.
Yeah, looking
trying
for jobs.
To not get killed in their country.
Literally. My parents migrated here in the 90s, I think, to flee the civil war that was going on and that America created.
Yeah, well, that's a whole other.
We should start second podcast with Stephanie. We talk about history. Jeez.
Well, no, I mean we can talk a little bit about that after I just mentioned finish the thought on the immigration thing, and it's just like these people don't have ill intent, like
the composer people, the white composers, white composer, like the white composer caricature that we were talking about.
Right.
Yeah. These people they're fine,
but like, no, I think that people are ready to hate mostly because they don't understand.
Oh yeah,
and so rather than just like always be on attack, which tends to happen a lot in like as much as I am sort of a advocate of social justice stuff, I feel like that culture of far left sort of loudness makes the conversation more difficult because it's like if you just take the time to sit down and talk with like a Trump supporter or something, you would. Well, and that's the thing.
That's dangerous. That can be
easy,
very dangerous.
It's easy for us to be like, oh no,
well,
like
I mean, it's also. I mean, apart from like that, it can be dangerous. Depending on of course, but like depending.
Right.
On the
well, it
person,
depends where you are.
Like,
if you're sitting one-on-one,
it's exhausting too.
Yeah, but like, again, we have to fight not each other. We're actually just fighting this slew chaos of just words and like we think of a Trump supporter as being this bigoted racist, but they're actually just like, I don't know, I'm kind of scared about what's going on, and this seems like the solution.
And that's why, a lot of Trump supporters are actually kind of like that. I was reading it wasn't a statistic, it was an article about it that is talking, like they interviewed a Trump supporter and they were scared that people were taking their jobs because that's what President Trump said. You know, it's pretty common. But
Right.
Yeah.
And so just literally sitting down in front of a human being as a human being.
I just wish the fear-mongering wasn't – without the fear-mongering that we have going on, with, especially with this presidency and, like, journalism and, you know, all that stuff, it's like I feel like all of that led to what Trump being elected and for it to be okay. And, like, we're like, oh, yeah, we saw this coming. And for, like, the people who are, like you said, scared but acting in anger, I think that all of that opened up the door for that to be okay.
Yeah.
It's not okay, but, you know.
Right. But just like,
yeah.
Again, anyone who hates immigrants doesn't know enough immigrants.
Oh, absolutely.
Anyone who is homophobic or transphobic or whatever just doesn't know anyone that is that way.
Yeah.
And so they tend to just be like, oh, I have this perception of what this person is. This trans person that's a pedophile trying to get into this bathroom.
They always
and like
extremes, And
it's like, I don't know if you know any trans people.
They're all kind of sad and struggling.
Yeah.
Have empathy.
And so it's like, also, because they're struggling, they're really nice to people.
Oh, yeah.
And
some of the nicest people you'll meet.
The problem isn't, oh, they hate these people. It's actually just they don't know what that is. And they're afraid of this boogeyman that doesn't actually exist.
Right. Yeah, I think, at least for me personally, like I understand that, but it angers me that people wouldn't care to not get to know the boogeyman. Not like, or like to investigate about the boogeyman, you know?
Right. Well, if the boogeyman is scary enough, why would you investigate?
I mean, I would. I would, but that's just me. But yeah,
right.
Especially with like, because Trump supporters are lower class and like, you know, limited education. So I get that. But it's just like I hate that.
Right, but we have those boogeymen too.
Yeah,
and so again, earlier I said Trump supporter and you were like, oh.
I was like, oh, it's like,
no. No, this perception, we have this perception of like, you know, the dudes in the Trump rallies that are punching cameramen. Yeah. But it's like that's a very specific environment where they're like being riled up with this rhetoric that already has, you know, years built up of just this anger-filled misinformation that, of course that guy is going to be in that room and be like, fuck the journalists, punch. But if you, like, take them out of that situation and, like, just talk to them like a human being without the labels, without the everything else, and just be like, hi, my name's Carl, and I,
fucking Carl.
Like,
Carl.
I work for an oil company,
like an
and
IT
I'm like,
dude.
right.
Carl.
I work for an oil company, and you know, I'm kind of worried that, you know, they're gonna take my jobs away, and it's like, all right, dude,
most
like,
people don't have the
I understand
education for that. Like higher end jobs, it's more. I don't think it's as big of a problem with higher end, like quote unquote higher end jobs, because places like I have an uncle who migrated here and he's got like a degree in like computers and like he can build them, he can program them, he can troubleshoot. It's like a really advanced degree. He can't use that here because a lot of the jobs require like paperwork. There's a language barrier and all that stuff. So the easy option for everyone is to work in food, you know, because they don't pay much, but it's more than they'll make back there. Hours are great. Easy to get into.
Yeah. And most food industry and management and stuff is just like,
Also
papers,
hotels.
I don't care. I need, you know, I need a dishwasher. I need a cook. I need a waiter.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is like my entire family works in food. So except my dad, he works as a mechanic, which is so brown too.
But like, no, I mean,
or car porter. But,
oil field jobs are not high-end jobs. They're like,
don't they require a degree though? I mean, like they require like a degree or.
I think it's just like high school or something.
Oh, really?
But like,
okay,
it's like digging shit and.
Oh, really?
Like
Are we thinking of different, like, because when I think of, like, oil and stuff, I think about, like, the guys who are, like, coordinated and, like...
Yeah, I mean, those are engineers, but, like, someone has to dig.
Do the engineers dig it, though? Or is it, like... That's what I'm saying. Okay, so I was thinking engineer. I was like, oh, engineer. Okay, I gotcha.
Yeah. Like, if you just work in a field, like literally also, digging ditches or, like, laying down pipeline.
Construction?
Or something. Yeah.
Construction and... You're in the fields picking food. Farming, thank you. When you're too brown for farming. But no, that's a question for you in that case. How do you feel when someone like a classmate is really cool and you're like, oh, this person's really sweet, I like them, and then you find out they're a Trump supporter? I feel betrayed. I don't want to talk to them. Because especially like when you look at their Facebook and you like, you know that the facts are wrong or they're skewed. And I just feel like there's no reasoning with them. Because there's been 2 incidents where, like, white dudes are, like, super sweet, you know, in class, worked with them. Super sweet. Not the barrier of, like, me being brown was never an issue or anything like that. I checked their Facebook and I was like, oh.
Right.
And I was like, oh, no. And then, like, having conversations about, like, you know, how sometimes classes get political because of the conversation you're going. Having in class, it's just kind of like, you're like, oh.
But that's the thing. Before you knew that about them, you had, like, they were a perfectly normal human being that you were perfectly comfortable interacting with.
Sure.
That is still true. Yeah.
I mean, true, but it's also like, I think for me it bothers me because these are the ideas that will shape our future and you will be feeding the future generations. So that scares me.
But,
you know,
backing off from them and othering them in the way that their culture has othered us only cements them in their position.
Yeah.
And so it's better to treat them like normal people because they are normal people.
Right. Well, I mean, like, not even treating them differently, but it's like, I feel...
Yeah, you feel the tension
now.
because that's there. But, like, you just...
Well, it's kind of like this. I don't know if you've had this, but I've had this happen to me often. It's like the sensation of like, oh, I hate immigrants. And it's like, oh, I'm an immigrant. And so my parents are like, oh, no, not you guys, because you guys work hard and do things. And it's kind of like, I get it. But it's kind of like, you're polishing a turd at that point.
Right. But like, push a little. Like, and that's the thing. It's being patient and understanding. And so it's like, oh, well, not you guys, because you guys are different. It's like...
Yeah. It's like, you're so close. You're so close. You're so close.
Is it? Because, like, there's my family. Yeah. There's, you know, my extended family and all of them. Are they bad people, too? So it's like...
They're a mess, but they're not bad people. You don't want to
associate me with them because
like
I'm not the other. You know me well enough. Yeah. I'm not the other.
But that's because you got to know me.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so it's like... Maybe let's talk a little bit and let's expand on this. All right, well, this is what my family, this is my situation. And, like, everything is just a series of anecdote. Everyone is human beings.
Like, immigrants aren't that bad because Santiago and I work together, you know.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's just exhausting to, like, there's this concept in, like, social justice of, like, the, like, choose your battles, basically. Because... I feel this a lot just because there's so much intersectionality. Thank you. Within like my identities in that like I'm queer and I'm brown and all that stuff. So there's like that, and it's exhausting to have to like fight. Not even fight, but like educate constantly people. So it's always like choose your battles, or like, am I gonna take it today? And sometimes I do take it, and I just don't say anything in class, and someone says something really awful about immigrants or queer people. But
right, but like, again, just talking to them, not exploding at people.
Oh yeah,
because again,
I don't have that in me.
It cements them and pushes them back, and it makes things even worse.
Yeah, which I think is a silly notion too. Like, I mean, like I agree with you, but I also think it's silly to require people we have torn down for so long to be quote unquote civil, if that makes sense.
I mean, just
I'm like throwing you in deep.
No, like I think there's always a middle way.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And that hello, Buddhism. But like,
the Buddha is in the house tonight.
Well, yeah,
spirit is strong.
The more that we acknowledge that we're all just people, and again, we kind of pointed this out earlier with like, oh, there's the trailer trash poor person, and there's the like Hispanic poor person, and it's
poor.
like they're the same person, just with different, slightly different cultural differences. And so the more that we point out the similarities, the more that we really see.
Like we are more alike than we think we are.
And so being willing to have a conversation, be like, okay, so what do you want out of your life, out of your country, out of your future?
Right.
And when we see that those goals are the same, then we go, okay,
absolutely.
What it really is just a difference in like methodology or what you think this idea will result in.
Right.
And so people who are like homophobic are probably just like, oh, it'll just evolve into pedophilia and bestiality. And it's like,
what?
I don't think you know any gay people that like...
Furries or something else.
Yeah. Furries are something else. I'm not hating on furries. I'm just saying...
We don't understand.
It's difficult. Yeah. It's
animals
difficult.
are different, yeah.
But like... understanding other people.
Yeah, I get
and
that.
So, and then people saying like, oh, like pro-life, for example, and that whole thing. And so, right, well, there's a way of doing this. There's some science to back it up. There's things, and like, the more that we just have an open conversation about it.
And even the nuances, like, within that is like, you know how like you get these like BuzzFeed articles that are like, I had an abortion at 9 months because of, you know, and like most of the time those articles are like medical reasons that, you know, it was viable for the holder to go through with it because it would have costed both lives. And that's completely up to the individual to do. But yeah, it's like,
but that headline will be shared by a whole bunch of...
Oh, I think those even nuances, which I think is great, but like being open and talking about it is why we need to be open and talk about it, because there are nuances and there's always an exception, but there's also just like...
Yeah.
We can only think of so many things that we have to hear outside, other outside experiences too, because it's like, oh, I would have never thought of, you know, like that terminal disease that could have killed both of you or like whatever.
And the other thing too is that I'm noticing this entire time that we're talking, we are leading with the premise that we are right.
Right, right.
This is the right way.
I was thinking about that too.
And they're wrong in thinking this way. But like... not even necessarily either.
This is super postmodern.
So, I mean, there may be some points that we are wrong on.
Sure.
And it's like, hey, maybe making this economic decision might not be as productive for the blah, blah, blah. And it's like, all right, cool. Well, we should probably find a middle ground there. But, like, there's stuff to learn from either side.
Yeah, and like one of the arguments of like not building a wall, which doesn't work, is that that will prevent them from stealing jobs, and like that's a faulty argument. But like the argument that it'll work is that our economics are like investing too much in those jobs that are no longer necessary because of automation or whatever. But it's also like if you want immigrants to stop migrating to here, stop putting your feet in countries for like financial reasons that really are like
that's a much harder thing to convince people of.
That's kind but at least in my brain is the only options that I've been able to think of. Like if you want that to happen, then stop, go back in time and stop Reagan, or just like stop right now, or like invest in those countries in a way that'll be profitable for both, you know. But, you know, it's not that easy.
Or, I mean, find ways of easing the transition, maybe, so that.
Well, yeah, I mean, with our presidency, they're not going to want to
ease
the
like
transition.
And that's why I lean so heavily on like science and understanding each side of a thing, because it's like, I don't know enough about this, but there's probably some research into it. And so it's like, oh, why are there so many immigrants? Maybe it's because of this, this, and this. And we've found that whenever this thing happens, then this is better. But whenever this thing happens, this thing's worse. And so, but like that takes a lot of time and nuance and understanding the data and like understanding sample sizes and how long ago this research happened. And like that's a lot of nuance and time that we have to have the patience to be able to talk to each other. So like
it's hard, man. It's hard. I wish there were clear-cut answers, but like nothing is ever clear-cut.
Yeah. Because like
just be nice.
Here's one that was recent that I'm like, oh, geez. So you know about the Green New Deal?
No, I've been hiding from news lately because my mom's residency thing has got me.
Yeah, that's fair.
Up the walls and It's, what is that? Is that the TPS thing? Does that include the TPS thing? Because it's like so Trump denied renewal of the work visas. Okay. So I thought that was part of it because it's like green for him. I don't know.
The Green New Deal was presented by. Spearheaded by Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
Oh, yeah, I know.
And it's just kind of like, hey, in the next decade, we need to take, like, drastic measures about reducing blah, blah, blah. And so, like, by 2030, we need to be on zero, like, emissions. And I'm like, that's admirable, but that's not going to happen.
Yeah, especially. See, with a lot of, like, that type of things, it holds us as in people, lay people, accountable instead of like the structure that's allowing it to happen.
But that's what it's trying to propose. It's trying to be like the government is going to do all these things to like make sure that we are at blank.
How is that gonna go?
Yeah, exactly. And it's like,
oh no,
it's
kick
really
everyone
vague.
Out of government. Yeah,
right. It's really vague and really like ambitious. And while
it's admirable.
I agree with the sentiment of the thing, but also that's very impractical. And by presenting this in this way, it only makes it look worse.
So that's actually my problem with her, just in general. And like in the earlier podcast, we talked about like, the hoop earring things, and like that's how she's showing her rebellion, and that's awesome. I'm just kind of like over it, and I'm glad we have her, but it's also like so this is like the other political and also like the otherizing and division thing that's going on right now. Is like I think it's like the liberal ideal is like I think what she's basically doing, but like sometimes it's great in theory, but it's also just plastered in like sometimes in practicality and also like Western ideals, but they have to be sometimes because of that'll be taken more seriously.
Right. But like the hard
part
is
we got political.
Right
on. No, it's good.
Like so
I read Communist Manifesto.
I like I like the
sentiment
stuff and the sentiment and whatever, but it's like you gotta have the data to back it up.
Yeah, and like
otherwise
practicalities for
otherwise you just look really stupid. Which with her, it's happening kind of often, but that's what sort of furthers the divide. That anyone that goes, I really like what AOC is saying, then it's like, oh, you don't understand economics and blah blah blah.
Part of it too
like,
is that she is a brown girl. And
well, I don't know, but like she has displayed some ignorance in economics. Yeah. So that's still a thing, and we have to acknowledge that. All right,
I gotcha.
That is. A deficiency that this conversation has.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that you mentioned that because it's like when like a white dude does it, like it's kind of like, oh, we're all learning or whatever, but it's like
trickle down economics. It's great.
But then like when a brown girl does it, they're like, she just doesn't know what she's talking about.
Right. That's probably part of the narrative.
And I mean, like, I'm not saying it's the entire narrative because I've heard her speak a little bit, and sometimes I'm like, well, actually, I don't think that's actually like.
How that works.
Yeah, and I mean, I haven't like fact checked anything from her, but I think that's where humility just in general comes in instead of, but you know, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean,
Back
at the
full
same
circle,
time,
you know.
Yeah. Those same people that are saying, "Oh, she doesn't understand economics," like you guys also approved trickle down economics repeatedly. So
yeah,
I don't think you understand how economics works, but like maybe you're not seeing the data either.
Yeah. I think that's kind of the dissonance I have right now with politics is like all that we just discussed pretty much is that like because of my identities too, I am aware that those can color your perspective in that like queer people aren't taken seriously and people of color aren't too and like women aren't either. Well, they can be taken seriously. It's just like they have to fight for it more. So like I'm aware of that. So I'm like I hesitate to like dislike her, but I also like I don't dislike her, but I also dislike her. But like I understand like all of it. And I'm not saying that's like the excuse or the right way or whatever, but it's just kind of like it makes it hard. Because you're like you see past it and you're like, ah.
But that's the thing is that we systematically tend to separate into binary. And so
boy and girl.
Boy, girl, left, right,
Yeah.
Democrat, Republican.
Colored, not colored.
But even that, like, do you support AOC or do you not?
Yeah.
It's like, I like some of the things she's saying. I don't like all of it.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay to be kind of in between. Like, there's been some things that Trump has done that have been good. We have to accept that.
Yeah.
So
we have to unfortunately accept that.
Sure, you could be bitter about it, but like,
which I am.
Just acknowledge that, like, hey, that's actually.
Well, see, that's like an argument. It's like he made the economy grow, and it's like, yeah, that's true, but it's also like he's also shut the government down like 3 times, and like it's not just like there's so much that's going. And like immigration's getting higher too, even though like I forgot what the immigrant place. The
immigrant place.
Yeah, that ICE. There we go.
Okay,
I was like, sorry, that was a total brain fart. ICE is detaining more people. Like people are still immigrating, like even in higher numbers. That's one reason why there's just a lot of nuances of that.
But like, you don't have to be so binary in being like, no, everything Trump does is bad or everything Trump does is good. Like you can. Like, there's people who, on the Trump side, that have been like, yeah, Trump is great. And then Trump banned bump stocks for guns. And it's like, wait, hold on a second. I don't like that. You could be a little in between.
Yeah.
You could be like, oh, you know, I don't like literally anything that comes out of his mouth. But him saying that, like, a certain corporation assimilating with another corporation makes it kind of large, and so they probably shouldn't do that. That's actually, good. Say that. Yeah. So we don't have to be so binary all the time and be like, yes, all of it, or
I
no,
guess you could
all
say
of
we're
it.
non-binary.
Yeah. You can be in between and think, I don't really know enough about this to really kind of be fully on one side or the other.
And like admitting that even itself is so great. We don't do it enough.
Yeah.
We definitely don't do it enough.
What was the other thing you were going to ask me?
I forgot.
But you also, what other questions do you have for me? I'm willing to ramble on my own podcast. Sure, why not?
Hey, why not? It's a conversation.
Yeah.
Conversations are multiple ways.
I do remember you mentioning something about free will, so let's just dive right into that.
Oh, yeah.
But as if I haven't already explained some of my religious views, but maybe not recently.
I feel like
on the podcast.
Dig deeper.
So, hard answers to the quick questions.
Yeah.
I don't believe in God.
Yeah, I know that.
It's not so much as like a binary yes or no. It's more that I find the notion to be unlikely.
Okay, yeah. I mean, that's kind of sort of how I feel, although I feel like you're more like to the side of no than I am. But like, it's a spectrum. But
so
it's like, it feels weird that, you know, like this whole situation is like, did that really happen? What? But yeah. And is there really like another, you know, it's weird.
Yeah, but the information for me concludes to probably not. That's kind of what that seems.
Sure.
As far as like God is a universe, and that seems a little bit more like I think the universe is everything, and that I'm happy that I'm in the universe, and the universe is full of love, and that we as beings that are able to experience are able to put love into the universe. But the universe itself, having been as though to make life happen, means that the universe has love because we can experience it. That's a weird sort of circular thing, but yeah.
Circles. Forehead's just right.
But, and then free will, no. Because I kind of, again, have this idea of like a mechanistic universe, it sort of happens. I usually use the example of time travel. One, are you familiar with Back to the Future?
No, I'm the worst.
Pick a different example then. What's a time travel thing that you know about?
Doctor Who, embarrassingly enough.
I'm not sure if I know enough about Doctor Who to use that as an example. I
don't know what else.
But then I'll start with the fourth dimensional example first. You know Harry Potter?
Yes, I know Harry Potter.
So in Prisoner of Azkaban.
You picked the worst movie to talk about, too.
What?
Yeah.
Okay, well
that's the
many
second
people will
one
agree
or
with
first
you. It's
one?
the third one.
Third one. Oh, no, that's the one, like, it's serious centered, isn't it? Oh, okay, no.
Yeah. Okay.
The one before that, I was like, what's happening?
Yeah. Even though there's a big glaring plot hole in Prisoner of Azkaban.
Call out J.K. Rowling.
We will look past it for right now.
Stay tuned for my podcast.
So whenever they had the time turner and Hermione and Harry went back to sort of fix the things that needed to happen, what ended up happening is that all of the things that had happened in that day had already happened. It's exactly what they did.
Okay. Gotcha. I think
so the first time around, Harry was like, "Oh, my dad's alive. He's the one that cast that Patronus." The second time around, he goes, "Oh, this is the moment where that Patronus came out. I should probably cast this Patronus. Oh, it was me. I was my dad."
Right on.
So the thing about that is
is that the fourth dimension?
Yeah, that's fourth dimensional time travel sort of says that we are on one timeline.
Mindfuck.
And that even if you move at certain points in that timeline, that's exactly what happened. You can't
I see what you're saying.
Move out of that timeline. If you go back in time and
So what you're saying is there's a timeline already built in for us.
Yes.
Right on. Interesting. I mean, maybe you're right. I don't know.
Right. It doesn't mean that you're not making choices.
Yeah.
It just means that the choice that you make is the choice that you were going to make.
Is that how Sims is?
No.
I never played Sims. I only sort of know about it. Sims is just like you do whatever, isn't it? Well, yeah. I mean, like video games don't work that way. But.
Right. But like you're making the choice. It's just that's exactly the choice that you would have made. Given all of the circumstances and all of the things in your life and everything that led up to that moment, whatever choice you made is exactly that choice which you would have made.
Crazy. Crazy.
That's why I don't believe in free will, because it can be boiled back down to fourth dimensional rather than fifth dimensional. It sort of says like if you go back in time, that creates a separate timeline. Now we're in the dimension where like
I think that's how Doctor Who works.
Okay.
I think they're fifth dimension, but it's been a while since I've seen the show. So there's like 27,000 seasons.
Right,
so.
Yeah.
And 27 different writers.
But like instead of it being one thing, it's just like in this separate one, this happened. And so whenever they go like, oh, we got to go back and fix the thing, it's actually more like you're just going into a different dimension where that didn't happen.
Okay.
Or where you did do this thing.
Right on.
And so you're not fixing one timeline, you're actually just going into a different one.
Okay. How do I go into a different timeline? Where I maybe have green hair?
I think that you can't.
Right on.
I think that like a Back to the Future style.
I need to watch this movie.
Time machine is actually just an interdimensional machine. And so you're just going into a different dimension at a different
So is time irrelevant at that point? It's more dimension based?
I mean, you're still going to a different time, but
okay, gotcha.
You're just going into that one.
Okay, so it's like 1A
this is
versus
the one
1B versus
where we
1C.
stopped John Wilkes Booth from assassinating the president. Okay. It doesn't affect the original timeline. The original timeline,
so
he was
he's still
assassinated.
gonna die.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Right on.
No matter what, this is what happens.
Right on. You learn something new every day.
Right.
I learned about time travel and dimensions.
Yeah, but I think that applies to ours.
Yeah.
And that, like, you can say that, like, oh, this decision that I'm making is making a different branch over here. It's like, no, that's exactly the decision that you were going to make.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I mean, it's hard not to get into, like, deterministic BS and saying that, like, oh, so what I decide doesn't matter. What you decide definitely matters. It changes everything. But that is what you're going to decide. But, like, think of it more of just an afterthought rather than, like, a way of embracing the void. But
just let it go.
Yeah, exactly. Just like
it.
Just make your decision.
As shy as that, just do it.
Yeah. But
there's always a remedy.
Yeah.
Mostly.
And so it means that we are shaped by our environment and our genes pretty much entirely. And so by having a conversation with someone and being patient with them, you are
tying it back.
You are being a presence in their environment that allows them to make a different decision than if they would have, or than if they wouldn't have spoken to you.
Okay, so yeah, what you just said is like everything I've been trying to say, but like never had the words to. Right on. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so if you decide...
I always said like you're shaking their particles because like in my mind works that like we're just like we have particles around us and like they just interact differently and like certain things do this and whatever. But
yeah,
that's just how I conceptualize it.
Yeah, and so the more time that you spend with someone that you may disagree with, the more you're actually shaping the decisions that they will make. And, and the more that they shape decisions that you're going to make. So if you wouldn't have been that influence in their life at that moment, then they wouldn't have made a different decision later on. So it's important.
There's like this cheesy saying that's like you carry around pieces of people in you, and it's like, yeah. You pretty much do, yeah. Like whether good or bad, it's still like there.
That's pretty much an hour. Is there anything else that you wanted to mention?
I don't think so. I'm still like, what? On the like time thing, because that's so cool. We talked up. I went to school with someone who's now an astrophysicist, and like a lot of that. Yeah, he's bonkers for doing it, but like it's total respect.
Yeah,
but it's like they deal a lot with like stuff like that too, and like my physics class in high school was also like that, and I was just like, oh, but yeah, so cool.
But just keep in mind that a lot of physics is just like
hypothetical.
Well, I mean, astrophysics kind of is because we don't actually We know that
isn't it weird how we like conceptualize things like that in order to like make sense of things?
It's crazy. The math still checks out.
Yeah,
the math has to check out.
Oh no, yeah. I mean, it's just like weird that like in order to make sense of things we can't like touch. We make things that are touchable.
Yeah, right.
It's weird.
Light is both a particle and a wave.
Meta.
Well, no,
humans are funny.
Literally, like. If you observe light as a particle, you can observe that it behaves as a particle. But then if you observe it as a wave, it also behaves as a wave.
Weird. Crazy. Yeah. Brains. And then you got the whole like not psychoacoustic, like psychological thing where it's like sometimes your brain just like glitches or like weird. It's weird. Yeah. We just got like super postmodern and like phew.
That's the point.
Postmodern. Postmodern is the answer to everything.
Well, no, not necessarily, but just getting really heady about getting really heady about deep shit. That's the point of this podcast. That's why it's called Bit Depth.
I saw that. Yeah, I think I was at one of your episodes and I saw like bit depth. Oh, depth.
Yes.
Haha.
I'm Santiago Ramones.
I'm Stephanie Peñate.
Plug your stuff.
Plug my stuff. All right. Instagram for Dire Gnome is Dire Gnome Band, DIRE, Gnome as in garden gnome, GNOME, and then band, all one word. I think it's the same thing on Facebook. I hope. And then I am on Instagram as human, HUMANN_fly. And I would Color Me In podcast as well. Yes. I just started a podcast. Is Color Me In podcast on Instagram, and I don't know the blog URL off the top of my head, but it's in the little link area thing on my Insta. And then Twitter is swamp __thing_. There's really bad memes on there. I'm sorry. But yeah, I think that's all I've got.
Yeah. And if you check out that podcast,
you might hear a familiar voice.
Time works in a strange way. I will have already been on that podcast.
Dimension. Wait, when will this go up?
3 weeks? 2 weeks? 3 weeks?
Oh, yeah, so mine will go up first probably. Yeah. Because I'm doing every other week.
Yeah. So I will have already been on that podcast, which you can go check out.
Right on.
I'm going to talk about things like Radiohead and Transistor and
nice.
Avatar: The Last Airbender.
I need to show you this Radiohead meme that's in Spanish. You're going to scream. I screamed when I saw it. It was bad.
All right. Yeah, well, I'm Santiago Ramones. One more time.
I'm Stephanie.
You can find everything that I do on my website, santiagoramones.com. I make music, and you can download or pay for my demo, Songs with Words. You can find this podcast on Apple Podcasts. It's that little purple podcast app that you may have never seen, and you're like, why am I watching this on YouTube whenever I could just have it on my phone? Because it's also on YouTube. It's also on Stitcher and Google Play. If Spotify gets back to me ever, maybe I'll try again. It might be on Spotify eventually. But comment and leave reviews and say all the things and be like, hey, Stephanie's great. Or I think Santiago is stupid for thinking that
I think it'd be the other way around.
But yeah, I always end my podcast with my 3 things. They shape my life falafel. They shape my life falafel.
Oh, you're on the same page. I love falafels.
Life
Please sponsor me. Falafels. I could eat falafels every day. I love them.
Love never fails. It's going to be okay. I might be wrong.
Right on.